I recently did some snooping around online to see different products that were available to patch a hole in drywall, and I came across this kit, which I think is pretty cool. It's a Stella wall patch repair kit, and it pretty much has everything you need to fix a hole in your wall. So I built a fake wall, put a hole in it, and now I'm going to show you how to fix it using this kit. Let me show you what comes in this kit. There's a couple different ones. This one is the Pro 6x6. Comes with a 6x6 inch sheet of drywall. Then it comes with a couple blocks. It has screws to attach the drywall to the blocks, a pencil, and a knife so you can cut out the old drywall. Putty knives, 2 different sizes, with tape and joint compound. And then it has a sanding block to sand it all down smooth. And it even has this little door stopper in case the reason for the hole is a doorknob. That'll be nice if that is the reason. So it'll prevent you from having to do this again. And of course it has instructions. Feel free to follow the instructions, but that's basically why I'm making this video. So hopefully you won't need them. If you feel intimidated about having to fix a hole like this in your wall, do not worry, it is really easy. I'm going to make this really simple for you to understand. Step 1, you can take the 6x6 block of drywall that comes with the kit, hold it up like this, and what I like to do is put an arrow right here so I know that this is the way it needs to go when it goes back in. So this will be exactly the shape because I'm going to mark this with the pencil that comes in the kit. And now you have all these lines that you can follow and cut out. Next, you take the utility knife supplied with the kit and just cut these lines. This might be the hardest part of this repair, just because it's drywall, so it's a little tricky to cut through, but this is a brand new blade, never been used before. So you just have to make a couple different passes and just be careful. Don't cut yourself. Once you cut through, pull that out, clean up any of this paper, and then if you have any loose paper around here, you can take your knife and try and clean that up. You can put a little bevel all the way around if you wanted to. This will also help when you go to put joint compound in here. Just make sure that this is flat, there's nothing sticking out, so that you'll be able to create a nice flat patch. Next, you want to take your blocks and hold them half on the old drywall and half where your patch is going to be. And I'm going to hold them in the middle here. It'd be nice if you could get in the corners, in each corner, but this will definitely work. Just put your screw up high here. This is the only thing not included in your kit is a screw gun. And what I just did, you don't want to do, I put that screw in a little too far. There's a tip for you. Try and hold this block while you screw this in and control the screw nice and slow. You just want to barely sink the head of the screw in there. You just don't want to break the paper on the drywall. I'm going to put one more in here since I messed that one up. Something like that. Now do the same thing on the other side. Now you put your piece in with the arrow up, or however you mark this, and then put screws into that wood. Do the same thing, just barely sink the head of that screw in. Now I'm going to take my tape. This is self-adhesive mesh tape. Just put it so the center of it goes over each one of these seams, and then you can cut it with a knife real easily. I like to overlap the tape. I'll go this way. One more. Okay. Now we're going to do our joint compound. And the whole key to making a patch look perfect is to do multiple coats and to try and taper out the edges as much as possible. So the first coat, you basically just want to make sure that the tape is covered. I'm going to come out to about here, all around, and then I'm going to fill all of this in and let it dry overnight. Let's see how this comes out. I'm going to use the big putty knife. I think that'll make it easier to make this smooth. We'll see how it goes. Open this up. Just going to grab it. Start laying it on there. All right, this can be a little tricky depending on your skill level, how much you've done this before. There's a little bit of tape showing right here. I'm okay with that. This doesn't look perfect, but this is your first coat, so I'm gonna let this dry overnight, and I still have some left. We can do thin coats, probably 2 more thin coats over this. So let that dry. So this has dried overnight, and as you can see, there's a big old crack right here, and this doesn't look great. There's some cracking up here. That's because I put this stuff on really thick. There was a difference in the drywall, so I really had to fill all that in, but I can just fill that in. It should be fine. Just make sure it's completely dry. And before you do a second coat, make sure your putty knife is relatively clean. You can wash this stuff off with just some water. And I'm going to take it and scrape this. Make sure I get all the high stuff off. You don't want to end up having little loose bits of this joint compound in the fresh stuff, because you'll end up dragging it and it'll look terrible. You can also take the sanding sponge and just sand this a little bit and make sure that it's a little more smooth and that all the high stuff is off before you put a second coat on. Second coat, we're going to go real thin, and I'm going to taper out just a little more. Hopefully I'll have enough here, because I did use up a lot filling this in. Just make sure all the dust is off and put a second coat on. I've worked with a lot of joint compound before. I consider myself to be pretty decent at it. This stuff is a little harder to work with than the pre-mixed stuff that you get in a store. I'm not sure what this is made of, so I'm not going to add water to it, but typically that's what I would do to make it easier to spread. But this actually doesn't look too bad. I think I'll be able to sand that out and make that look good. And I have a little left over in case I need to fill in any of this. But we're gonna let this dry for another 24 hours and see how it comes out. Okay, so that is dry. This actually dried really quick. I did not have to wait overnight. So I still have there's like some bubbles here, and this isn't perfect. And since I have a little bit left here, the more I make this pretty, the less sanding I have to do. And I'm trying to make this as good as I possibly can with this, just so you know how well you can do with this. So just scrape this and use up the rest of this with a really thin coat. One more coat. I'm just going to do this square right here because that's what really needs it. Okay. That. Over these bubbles. Right here. All right. That's all I'm going to do. I'll let that dry. Third coat. Looking pretty good. Now we can just sand it out. Sanding is done. And that came out really, really good. And you just paint it. You'll never know the hole was there. So here's my thoughts on the kit. I love that it is an all-in-one kit. It will save you from having to buy a full sheet of drywall or a whole bucket of joint compound and having to have a taping knife and buy some tape and all that stuff. Really, the only thing that's not included in the kit is a Phillips screwdriver, and you'll probably have one of those. The joint compound is a little harder to work with than regular joint compound, but I noticed it dried a lot quicker and it dried a lot more solid. And I was able to get this really, really smooth, and it seems tougher than normal joint compound. So that's pretty cool. And I had plenty to cover this patch. For whatever reason, my patch was pretty deep, so I had to really fill it up. And this stuff worked great. It cracked on the first coat, but I was able to go over that with 2 more coats to make it nice and flat and smooth. And I have to say, I approve. Hope this video helps. Thanks for watching.